As early as 1919 it was known that mustard agent was a suppressor of hematopoiesis. 51. In addition, autopsies performed on 75 soldiers who had died of mustard agent during World War I were done by researchers from the University of Pennsylvania who reported decreased counts of white blood cells. 40. This led the American Office of Scientific Research and Development, OSRD, to finance the biology and chemistry departments at Yale University to conduct research on the use of chemical warfare during World War II. 40. 52. As a part of this effort, the group investigated nitrogen mustard as a therapy for Hodgkin's lymphoma and other types of lymphoma and leukemia, and this compound was tried out on its first human patient in December 1942. The results of this study were not published until 1946, when they were declassified. 52. In a parallel track, after the air raid on Barry in December 1943, the doctors of the U.S. Army noted that white blood cell counts were reduced in their patients. Some years after World War II was over, the incident in Barry and the work of the Yale University group with nitrogen mustard converged, and this prompted a search for other similar chemical compounds. Due to its use in previous studies, the nitrogen mustard called HN2 became the first cancer chemotherapy drug, mustard, also called clomiphene, to be used. Disposal. In the United States, storage and incineration of mustard gas and other chemical weapons were carried out by the U.S. Army Chemical Materials Agency. 53. Disposal projects at the two remaining American chemical weapon sites were carried out near Richmond, Kentucky, and Pueblo, Colorado. Although not yet declassified, toxicology specialists who dealt with the accidental puncturing of World War I gas stockpiles at that Air Force bases in Colorado have been made available to assist veterans of the 2003 American War with Iraq, in which many Marines were exposed to gaseous caches of up to 25,000 pounds, 11,000 kilograms. The United Nations definition of a weapon of mass destruction for mustard gas is 30,000 pounds, 14,000 kilograms. Typically the Marines and other coalition allies discovered caches of 25,000 pounds, 11,000 kilograms, located across a road from 5,000 pounds, 2,300 kilograms, caches as multi-climene wars attest. These were discovered by the assistance of host country allies, or through leaks affecting personnel in an area with a weapon and gas cache called an ASP. New detection techniques are being developed in order to detect the presence of mustard gas and its metabolites. The technology is portable and detects small quantities of the hazardous waste and its oxidized products, which are notorious for harming unsuspecting civilians. The immunochromatographic assay would eliminate the need for expensive, time-consuming lab tests and enable easy-to-read tests to protect civilians from sulfur mustard dumping sites. 54. In 1946, 10,000 drums of mustard gas, 2,800 tons, stored at the production facility of Stormont Chemicals in Cornwall, Ontario, Canada, were loaded onto 187 boxcars for the 900 miles, 1,400 kilometers, journey to be buried at sea on board a 400-foot, 120 m, long barge 40 miles, 64 kilometers, south of Sable Island, southeast of Halifax, at a depth of 600 fathoms, 1,100 m. The dump location is 42 degrees, 50 minutes north by 60 degrees, 12 minutes west. 55. A large British stockpile of old mustard agent that had been made and stored since World War I at MS Factory Valley near Hydymwyn in Flintshire, Wales, was destroyed in 1958. 56. Most of the mustard gas found in Germany after World War II was dumped into the Baltic Sea. Between 1966 and 2002, fishermen have found about 700 chemical weapons in the region of Bornholm, most of which contain mustard gas. One of the more frequently dumped weapons was Sprühbuchs 37, Sprühbuch 37, Spray Can 37, 1937 being the year of its fielding with the German army. These weapons contain mustard gas mixed with a thickener, which gives it a tar-like viscosity. When the content of the Sprühbuch 37 comes in contact with water, live mustard gas in the outer layers of the lumps of viscous mustard hydrolyzes, leaving behind amber-colored residues that still contain most of the active mustard gas. On mechanically breaking these lumps, for example, with the drag board of a fishing net or by the human hand, the enclosed mustard gas is still as active as it had been at the time thujapan was dumped. These lumps, when washed ashore, can be mistaken for amber, which can lead to severe health problems. Artillery shells containing mustard gas and other toxic ammunition from World War I, as well as conventional explosives, can still be found in France and Belgium. These were formerly disposed of by explosion undersea, but since the current environmental regulations prohibit this, the French government is building an automated factory to dispose of the accumulation of chemical shells. In 1972, the U.S. Congress banned the practice of disposing of chemical weapons into the ocean by the United States. 29,000 tons of nerve and mustard agents had already been dumped into the ocean off the United States with U.S. Army. According to a report created in 1998 by William Brankowitz, a deputy project manager in the U.S. Army Chemical Materials Agency, the Army created at least 26 chemical weapons dumping sites in the ocean offshore from at least 11 states on both the East Coast and the West Coast, in Operation Chase, Operation Geranium, etc. In addition, due to poor record keeping, about one-half of the sites have only their rough locations. 57. In June 1997, India declared its stock of chemical weapons of 1,044 tons, 1,151 short tons, of mustard gas. 58. 59. By the end of 2006, India had destroyed more than 75% of its chemical weapons /material stockpile and was granted extension for destroying the remaining stocks by April 2009 and was expected to achieve 100% destruction within that time frame. 58. India informed the United Nations in May 2009 that it had destroyed its stockpile of chemical weapons in compliance with the International Chemical Weapons Convention. With this, India has become the third country after South Korea and Albania to do so. 60. 61. This was cross-checked by inspectors of the United Nations. Producing or stockpiling mustard gas is prohibited by the Chemical Weapons Convention. When the convention entered force in 1997, the parties declared worldwide stockpiles of 17,440 tons of mustard gas. As of December 2015, 86% of these stockpiles had been destroyed. 62. A significant portion of the United States mustard agent stockpile was stored at the Edgewood area of Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. Approximately 1,621 tons of mustard agents were stored in 1-ton containers on base under heavy guard. A chemical neutralization plant was built on the proving ground and neutralized the last of this stockpile in February 2005. This stockpile had priority because of the potential for quick reduction of risk to the community. The nearest schools were fitted with over-pressurization machinery to protect the students' armed faculty in the event of a catastrophic explosion and fire at the site. These projects, as well as planning equipment and training assistance, were provided to the surrounding community as a part of the Chemical Stockpile Emergency Preparedness Program, CSEP, a joint program of the Army and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. 63. Unexploded shells containing mustard gases and other chemical agents are still present in several test ranges in proximity to schools in the Edgewood area, but the smaller amounts of poison gas, 4 to 14 pounds, 1.8 to 6.4 kilograms, present considerably lower risks. These remnants are being detected and excavated systematically for disposal. The U.S. Army Chemical Materials Agency oversaw disposal of several other chemical weapons stockpiles located across the United States in compliance with international chemical weapons treaties. These include the complete incineration of the chemical weapons stockpiled in Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, and Oregon. Earlier, this agency had also completed destruction of the chemical weapons stockpile located on Johnston Atoll located south of Hawaii in the Pacific Ocean. 64. The largest mustard agent stockpile, at approximately 6,200 short tons, was stored at the Deseret Chemical Depot in northern Utah. The incineration of this stockpile began in 2006. In May 2011, the last of the mustard agents in the stockpile were incinerated at the Deseret Chemical Depot, and the last artillery shells containing mustard gas were incinerated in January 2012. In 2008, many empty aerial bombs that contained mustard gas were found in an excavation at the Marangaroo Army Base just west of Sydney, Australia. 65. 66. In 2009, a mining survey near Chinchilla, Queensland uncovered 144 105mm howitzer shells, some containing mustard H, that had been buried by the U.S. Army during World War II. 66. 67. In 2014, a collection of 200 bombs was found near the Flemish villages of Passendale and Moorsled. The majority of the bombs were filled with mustard agents. The bombs were left over from the German army and were meant to be used in the Battle of Passchendaele in World War I. It was the largest collection of chemical weapons ever found in Belgium. 68. A large amount of chemical weapons, including mustard gas, was found in a neighborhood of Washington, D.C. The cleanup was completed in 2021. 69. Post-war accidental exposure. In 2002, an archaeologist at the Presidio Trust Archaeology Lab in San Francisco was exposed to mustard gas which had been dug up at the Presidio of San Francisco, a former military base. 70. In 2010, a clamming boat pulled up some old artillery shells of World War I from the Atlantic Ocean south of Long Island, New York. Multiple fishermen suffered from blistering and respiratory irritation severe enough to require hospitalization. 71. World War II era tests on men. Mustard gas test subjects enter gas chamber, Edgewood Arsenal, March 1945. From 1943 to 1944, mustard agent experiments were performed on Australian service volunteers in tropical Queensland, Australia, by British Army and American experimenters, resulting in some severe injuries. One test site, the Brook Islands National Park, was chosen to simulate Pacific islands held by the Imperial Japanese Army. 72. 73. The United States tested sulfur mustards and other chemical agents including nitrogen mustards and Luizit on up to 60,000 servicemen during and after World War II. The experiments were classified secret, and as with Agent Orange, claims for medical care and compensation were routinely denied, even after the World War II era tests were declassified in 1993. The Department of Veterans Affairs stated that it would contact 4,000 surviving test subjects but failed to do so, eventually only contacting 600. Skin cancer, severe eczema, leukemia, and chronic breathing problems plagued the test subjects, some of whom were as young as 19 at the time of the tests, until their deaths. but even those who had previously filed claims with the VA went without compensation. 74. Arms of 4 test subjects after exposure to nitrogen mustard and illicit agents. African American servicemen were tested alongside white men in separate trials to determine whether their skin color would afford them a degree of immunity to the agents, and Niger servicemen, some of whom had joined after their release from Japanese American internment camps, were tested to determine susceptibility of Japanese military personnel to these agents. These tests